Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sydney, and if you're new here, this is just a place where we can talk about true crime, spooky, scary stories, dark history, or anything else I got going on in my brain. It's been a little bit since we've had a Reddit and Rosé, so I thought now would be the perfect time, and I'm excited because I actually have a wine that I enjoy drinking. It's from a place called Balanced Rock Winery. It's in like a random place in Wisconsin. If you're not from Wisconsin, you probably wouldn't know it, but it's super delicious. It's called Catalba, and it's really yummy. So I pre-opened it because me and corkscrews do not get along. I have some really good stories that I found, and I am just very, very excited to get into it. I didn't really have a lot of time to chill this, but it is so good. It is like the perfect amount of sweet. It's just a little bit tart. Oh my God, so yummy. Okay, without any further ado, I think we should get into today's first story. This one was written by electronic_ad 9201. And it is called, I Lived Behind a Graveyard. My mom got locked out of the house. I wrote a while back about the bone I found in the backyard of my family's home, and some of the weird things that I've experienced. Here's another unexplained moment. In my college years, I lived in the same town as my parents, about 15 minutes away. And as an adult, I'm close with my parents and see them regularly. So the morning my mom called me, I assumed she was going to ask me if I wanted to get dinner or come over. However, when I answered, I was met with a wavering voice. Can you come over? I locked myself out. You did? How? Which door? The front door. Can you please come over? As I pulled up to the house, my mom was standing at the top of the driveway, and her body language said that something was wrong. I made a snarky comment about needing a hideaway key, and then walked her to the front door. As I unlocked the door, I realized it was the deadbolt that was locked, not the doorknob lock. It made me pause before opening the door, realizing that you can't open the door with the deadbolt locked. As I pause, she laughs and says, "You are not going to believe me." Oh? I went to take out the trash and I closed the door behind me. I even jiggled the doorknob to make sure it was unlocked. And it was. But the deadbolt was locked, not the doorknob? I know, that's why I'm freaked out. And when I went to go back inside, I realized the door was locked. And here's the thing, don't make fun of me. Now we're standing in the entryway and she points to the glass panel next to the front door. You know what I'm talking about? Those decorative glass panels that would sit next to front doors. She points to it and says, I swear I saw someone walk past when I looked inside. I swear it was Mark. She's one of 4 siblings, 2 of which had, at the time of this story, recently died from old age. She wasn't that close with either of them, as they were significantly older than her. When they died, I know she felt conflicted on not having a close relationship with them, and I know she felt more alone in the world with both of them gone, regardless of their relationships. We did a sweep of the house, checking every room and hiding spot. I don't know what we were looking for or what we would have done if we found something or someone. After such an uneventful search, we both laughed about the whole thing, and I left shortly after to get to class. She was the only person in the house all day. Before I left, Mom and I both scolded the house, telling it to knock that shit off. This wasn't the only time Mark showed up, but this one was the most unsettling. This is what makes me think the afterlife and spirits are real, because, I mean, obviously it sounds like her mom was having a lot of inner conflict. Obviously she talked about it a little bit in the story about not having a close relationship with Mark and her other sibling, but it feels like Mark came, showed up, played a little prank, nothing harmful or anything like that, just to let her mom know that it was okay. And the fact that Mark kept showing up, that of course this was just one instance, but I find that really interesting. I don't know. You just can't make that stuff up, Alrighty, we are moving on to something I love and hate. This is called a mimic or something else. It is written by apart/kick125. This will be long. This is also my first Reddit post, and I'm eager to tell people about my experience. For some background, I was raised with a quote-unquote demon attached to my father. He called himself Mordecai, and although he never hurt me, he tormented my dad 24/7. When my dad had an exorcism done, I was 17. He attached himself to me, but never did anything to hurt or ruin me. Fast forward to when I'm 21 in my own apartment and living alone. I had our family dog as my emotional support animal to help with my mental health. I noticed one day that my dog would sit and growl quietly, fixated on the closet. I thought nothing of it, just told him that it was okay and that we could go outside for a walk. This happened all day, every day, no matter the time. I never cared for the paranormal and didn't put too much thought into it, as I didn't want to give it power over my thoughts, you know? Nothing crazy has ever happened in my apartment, nothing that couldn't be explained. I let this thing in my closet just be, as he never seemed to want to leave. I'd make jokes like, if you're gonna be here and make my dog irritated, at least pay some rent. A couple months later, I let a friend move in when she needed somewhere, and I had an extra room available. We'd been best friends since we were 12, so this wasn't a problem for me at all. She was raised Wiccan and practiced Wicca, very in tune with spirits, and could indicate where, gender, motive, energy, and a name if they had one. One day, I walk into my room from hers and see a hanger violently swinging. There's no airflow in that closet. Nothing in there that had been touched in the last few minutes. I asked her to come in and see if there's something in the closet because although I had a silly suspicion, nothing had ever moved. Not the way this hanger was. She came in and sat in the closet. 20 seconds go by and she gets uneasy and says, "You really have never noticed this? It's hard to breathe. They are not happy. He isn't nice." She stepped out and we stayed out of the room the rest of the night. About a week later, I leave for work around 11:30 a.m. and say bye to her, and she watches me walk out of the apartment and lock the door. Around 1 p.m. she calls me and goes, "Hey, did you come back? Sorry I couldn't help you, I was in the shower." Terrifying, okay. Holy fuck. I explained that I had been gone the whole time, never coming back home. She goes, "No, you had to have come back. I heard the door open and close. You yelled my name as if you had a question." And yet again, I said I had not been home, and maybe she just thought it up. She got anxious and stern, confirming, "No, you walked in, you yelled my name, you knocked on the door. Someone was here, they sounded exactly like you." I was just speechless because I locked the door. We live in a safe neighborhood. I couldn't leave work and go home and be with her and make sure she was safe. I had no idea what was going on. We talked briefly about the experience when I got home, and over the next year of living together, she'd tell me about items in her room being thrown at her, her name being called from across the apartment in my voice, experiencing sleep paralysis and difficulty breathing. She'd send me videos of items being tossed off the counter at her. One night we were drinking, and she set her bottle of tequila on top of the fridge so we didn't knock it over. After about maybe 5 minutes, I watched it fly across the kitchen to hit her in the head, and then my phone fell onto the floor when it was just inches away from me. We stared at each other like, what the fuck can we even do about this? She tried time and time again to get rid of this thing. We done smoke cleanses of the apartment, smudging, salt, everything we knew. He just kept himself in my closet till she was around. He hated her and made that known. When we moved apart from each other, the activity stopped. I still feel a presence in my closet as I have worked on strengthening my skills for this stuff, but nothing else happens. My dog no longer growls, no objects move, no voices call out names. I don't care to figure out what this thing is. If it's Mordecai, he's just doing what he's always done, which is be a bystander in my life, and I cannot understand what about this girl he did not like. I'm very curious to know what the author of this story, what their gender is, because if they have he, him pronouns, I'm wondering if Mordecai acts as a bystander in this person's life, but when the entrance of a woman came to the picture, it seems like that's when it started to pick up. So I'm wondering if it has to do with the fact that their friend was a woman. I'm super curious because the fact that things calmed down since she left and ramped up as soon as she got into the apartment, I'm just wondering what that spirit, like the author says, what they have against her in particular. If it is because she's a woman, if it's because she's a Wiccan, I don't know, but that is a crazy story. And the fact that Mordecai went from the writer's dad into them is crazy bonkers. Crazy bonkers. I know they said they don't want to know what it is, but I'm just speculating. I feel like it might not be a mimic. I feel like it could just be a demon or some sort of evil spirit that just wants to wreak havoc. because I've heard that spirits in and of themselves can like disguise their voices, although the thought of it being a mimic is maybe more terrifying than an evil spirit, so I don't know. This story is written by Hawkeye09090, and it's called Possible Encounters from a Michigan Nature Park Worker. For my safety, I don't want to reveal which park system I work for, but it's important for the story that I, female, 19 years old, work a position at a Michigan nature park not entirely dissimilar to that of a park ranger. My job duties usually include manning the entry booth, locking up the buildings at night. And although not a usual duty, sometimes they ask me to walk or take a park vehicle through some of the trails, as I am on the younger side, but still have several years of experience at the park. I've had some odd things happen to me while on the job that I can't quite explain. I'm decently well versed in some areas of the paranormal, and although not entirely relevant, it's of note that I'm also a Norse pagan as part of a family belief, and often wear protective symbols as well. And to be honest, I've started wearing them more since these odd things have been happening. I've tried looking into it myself, but overall, I'm overwhelmed and not sure where to look, so a friend suggested I ask a forum like this about my experiences. I just want to pause here. What a cool fucking job. I mean, I don't really know where we're going from here, but like, to be a park ranger, basically, so cool. Hawkeye, I'm jealous of you. That is cool. Such a cool job. There are two things in particular I want to ask about. Thing one, I usually work the night shift. You work the night shift? You work the night shift? My entire perspective has changed. No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. There are spooky sounds at night. No. You are braver than I, dear Hawkeye. Thing one, I usually work the night shift, and this night in particular, it was raining a lot, and the conditions were getting unsafe. I was posted out in the booth, which is multiple miles from the office. So when things took a turn for the worse, my boss radioed me back. Some people who don't spend a lot of time in the woods don't realize how dark deep woods can get, much less in the dark at night. But I had both a flashlight and the light from the booth, which gave me probably 30 feet of visibility. And when I went to grab my stuff so I can lock up the booth and get to my car, I swore I saw something that moved very human-like, but moved in a really odd way. Like, the only way I can describe it is if a horse-deer hybrid tried to run like a person. I don't like that. I do not like that. Oh my God, what could that even be? Oh, but there were no people out there, and it was most definitely not a deer. I'm probably not describing it in the best way, but it was very off. So I got to my car ASAP, and it didn't start right away. A bit odd, but not entirely out of character for my car. But when I turned the key a second time, I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and it looked like whatever it was had gotten closer. The drive goes without incident, but I'm still off about what I saw. And when I get closer, I radio to see if they need me to pick anyone up. The radio doesn't work right away, which is very out of character. These radios are designed to work in awful conditions, and I was the closest I'd been to any sort of signal in a while. I chalked it up to the weather and pulled into the office. But as I do, something runs past me. Ew, I would simply pass away. I did not get a good look at what it was, but it was not a person, and I'm telling you, there's not an animal in the woods that I know of that can look like either of the things I saw, and I cannot seem to shake it. I need a little mental health break. Oh my gosh, that is absolutely horrifying. I'm trying to think, the only thing I can think of, Wendigo or a freaking skinwalker mimic type situation, especially because you know that this person, Hawkeye, they are an avid outdoorsman. So if they see like a weird looking deer or something that looks like a weird deer or like a moose, they're gonna know. They're gonna know what it is, but they don't know what it is. Oh, I might have to look at the comments in this one and see what people are saying they think that creature is. Oh my gosh. Thing two. This happened more recently, and this is what prompted me to finally reach out to a forum of some kind. I was walking the trails for security purposes close to closing. We close around 11 p.m. and start a final walkthrough around 9 p.m. We do this to make sure no one's stuck on the trail or hurt, so they aren't stuck overnight when there's fewer staff and none that patrol those trails. I like that you guys do that. That's good. Okay, so I was walking one of our trails, and I was pretty deep in the woods already, as I'm a fairly fast hiker, and this is a trail I know well. I was already about 2 miles into the trail when things started to get weird. I hear a noise off in the distance, and at first I thought it could be a coyote or an owl, so I pressed on. Coyotes stay off the trails, and they won't go after people unless they have dogs, and dogs are banned in the woods here. And they know when we do our sweeps, so I was not concerned. But then the noise got weirder. I'm used to the sound of the woods, and I know the area and the wildlife very well, and I have never once in my life heard that sound before. It didn't come from any animal I recognize, and it was definitely not human. I've never aborted a sweep before, even when I've had coyotes nearby, but it did not feel right, and I got out of there. If anyone has any idea what either of these things could be, please let me know. I really appreciate it. So I just read the first comment. Don't follow any owl noises. Things in the deep wood will try to mimic things like that, or coyotes, but they never sound right. I would keep my gun close. I've lived in the redwoods, and there are similar things here. It has a hollow, ethereal tone or pitch to the sound. I would personally leave a small offering in a tree hollow or fairy ring if you find one. So I know Hawkeye was asking for advice, and I'm not an avid outdoorsman. I am not versed in paranormal things, even really. But I agree with that first comment. I would definitely leave an offering of some kind if you're comfortable with that. I would stay off the trails. I think the judgment call of leaving that sweep was a good idea. You never know. You never know. Even if it was like some kind of weird hurt animal that just made a sound that you've never heard before, I think it's always better to be safe than sorry. Your job is never more important than your safety. And if you have a bad feeling about something, it's usually right. Trust your gut is a real thing. So Hawkeye, keep doing you. Keep helping out the park system in Michigan, but be safe. Be safe, my dude. That is wild. That is so freaking scary. I cannot get over the first little thing too with the deer hybrid horse thing. Oh my god. Ugh. This next one is by RJ Floyd 85, and it's called I Work Security and Had a Strange Experience Tonight. Hey y'all, I work at a condo complex by the beach. I've been here for about 3 years, and my coworkers, who have been here 10 plus years, always talk about seeing and hearing spooky stuff. To give you some background, I am a skeptical believer. In the past 3 years, I never had anything happen that I couldn't debunk. Until tonight. I was on the second floor doing a patrol. I have a radio that I carry with me when there are only 2 of us working. Normally, I'm here by myself, so I don't usually have it on me. While waiting in the lobby of the second floor for the elevator, the radio suddenly kicked on like someone was trying to talk. I took it out of my pocket and heard a faint little girl's voice saying, "Can you see me?" twice, followed by, "I'm right behind you." How do you people do this? How do you just keep going to work after that? I would shit myself and never return. Never return. Holy fuck. My initial thought was that my coworkers were playing a joke on me, so I just put the radio back in my pocket. When I got back to the guard shack, I told my coworker that it was a funny prank. He looked at me, and he's not the type to lie, and said he had no clue what I was talking about. So apparently I had my first paranormal experience. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and then there's an update. I spoke to my boss this morning and told him what happened. He wasn't surprised and said it normally happens on the 6th floor. He mentioned that he has seen and heard 2 little kids running up and down the hallways and that they have messed with the radio. He asked around, but no one knows anything about kids passing away here. However, this building has been here since 1974, and it was one of the first condos built in the area. RJ Floyd is so real for that. I would see my boss in the morning and I'd be like, here is my immediate resignation. I'm not coming back. But dang, I guess that might like trauma bond you with your coworkers if like everybody's having paranormal experiences and you're all just hearing little girls over the radio, kids running up and down the halls. Maybe that would just, make your relationship with your coworkers much better if you're all just having traumatic paranormal experiences every night. I'm putting all these on the screen because for this one specifically, I cannot pronounce this user's name. I apologize. I think it's hoangtudude, but it's probably not pronounced like that. And it's called My First Paranormal Encounter. I've had many paranormal encounters starting from my teenage years, intensifying in my early adulthood, and seemingly tapering off now that I'm in my late 30s. The first experience that I remember was in 9th grade, coming home from school. My parents were both working, so usually I was home by myself until late dinner. I usually got the rice started in the rice cooker and thawed the meats. This afternoon I was extra tired from wrestling practice, so I was relieved when I came home and heard rustling in the kitchen and the faucet turning on and off. I didn't actually look in there to see who it was, but I assumed it was my mom because sometimes she'd get home early from her restaurant job. Sometimes they'd have private events, and they'd send some waitstaff home. I turned the corner to the bedroom and yelled out to her, "Can you wake me up in like an hour? I want to study for a test tomorrow." I heard her say in a raspy voice, "Okay, Kong." Kong is a Vietnamese term addressing your own child. I thought nothing of it. Maybe she's feeling a little sick. I woke up from the landline phone ringing. Cell phones in the early 2000s were available, but we were so poor, only adults had them. It was my mom asking me if I wanted leftover food from the restaurant. I asked her, "Did you go back to the restaurant for leftover food?" She said, "No, she's been working the whole time." Chills ran down my back. It was twilight. The sun was setting, so the whole house had an eerie semi-darkness to it. I told my mom to hurry up and get home, please. I did not lock my bedroom door so I could see into the dark hallway. I jumped up to go lock the bedroom door and turned on the light, opened the window, turned on the radio, anything to drown out the silence and the dark. Eventually, my dad got home first. I was so relieved to see him, but didn't know if I should tell him what happened. I waited till dinner time to slip in casually that I thought Mom was home earlier and was doing something in the kitchen. They denied it, and they concluded that I must have imagined the whole thing, but I know I didn't. Someone was in the house, rustling in the kitchen, turning the faucet on and off, and imitating my mom in its raspy voice. It called me Kong, so my first thought was that it understood Vietnamese. No relatives we knew were going to come over, nor did they have keys to the house. To this day, I still don't know what it was or how it mimicked my mom. It wasn't the only spooky thing to happen in that apartment, but it was the first and the spookiest. That is a lot. That is a lot. Some people in the comments were talking about, like maybe they imagined their mom's voice or something along those lines. But you know what a voice sounds like. If you hear somebody talking who you are very familiar with, like your mom, your significant other, whatever, you know their voice, you know how it sounds, you can tell those things apart. And I feel like that was some sort of entity for sure. Although the poster seemed very scared, obviously, by this incident, I don't think any of us would not be scared if that were to happen. It seems like the spirit is almost good. The fact that they were like kind of wrestling around in the kitchen, it seems like they were almost like preparing something. And the fact that they did call the author of this post that endearing term, that con term, I don't think I'm pronouncing that right, by the way, but that kind of shows, at least to me, that maybe they were trying to not frighten the author of the story, or they were trying to, I don't know, not come off as scary. I don't know. To me, it just is scary. It's super scary, but it seems like the spirit was good. I can't imagine little high school me just coming home, hearing my mom's voice, and then realizing she's not actually home. I think that would freak anyone out at any age, but especially in high school. Oofta. I do have to say I'm a little tipsy. It's hard to read when you actually enjoy the wine you're drinking, because then you drink the wine and then you get tipsy. So I also haven't eaten dinner. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this Reddit Rosé. I had a really good time. Thank you for all of these Reddit users for giving me permission to read their stories. I think it's so incredible that people feel compelled and open enough to put their stories out onto the internet so little old nobodies like me can read it. I find it super interesting that people experience these crazy paranormal things, these unexplainable things. And I really think that people that have paranormal experiences, they just are in tune a little bit more with the universe, with the earth. By the time I release this, it will be September. Happy September, everybody. It's officially fall. I got my first pumpkin drink today, and I really am feeling the fall vibes right now. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good spooky season. I have slowly begun to get together some October video ideas that I am pretty excited about. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys are looking forward to it, but I am. It's going to be a spooky month, my friends. It's going to be a spooky Halloween time. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Feel free to like or comment or subscribe or all three if you're feeling so inclined. Comment below which of these scary stories did you like the most. I think for me, unfortunately, for all the other ones, because I feel like every story was so good, I think Hawkeye's story, man, with that Michigan park, that's pretty terrifying. I think that has to take the cake for me. That is going to give me nightmares. Next time I go for a walk in the woods, I'll be thinking about that hybrid horse thing. Not gonna lie. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and keep being the bad bitches that you are. Goodbye, guys.